Hello again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to my channel again. If you are new here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for stopping by again to see another video about homeschool curriculum. I love doing curriculum videos here on this channel. I love watching them on other people's channels, so it's always fun for me to make one for you all and to hear your feedback on it. In today's particular video, I'm going to share comparisons and I'm going to compare and contrast 3 different spelling programs, just share what I've learned as I've used them and researched them. I'm not going to do complete flip-throughs of anything today. I'm just going to be highlighting some differences and similarities for you. If you would like to see more in-depth flip-throughs, please see the description box below because I do have a couple on my channel. I think one of these I've not yet done a flip-through of, but I will in the future, so stay tuned for that. In today's video, I'm going to just highlight some things for you all though, so if you have more specific questions and the videos I'm linking don't help you, please leave those questions down below and I will answer them as best as I can. So let's hop into the first program. I'm going to start with Memoria Press. Memoria Press, if you're not familiar with them, they are a more classical approach to learning, or they have a more classical approach to learning, and they are I believe they have programs up through 10th grade. I don't know if they have 11th and 12th grade yet. I haven't looked that high up in their catalog, but they're almost there. They're almost to having a full curriculum for your homeschool needs. So if you have not checked them out yet, there will be a link below as well as links to all the materials that I'm going to show you today. Let's talk about just some general how the program works with Memoria Press. First of all, there is some key material in the front of this book. It tells you how the lessons work, but it tells you the whys and the wherefores of all of the different components that they have. So if you're tempted to skip over certain parts or not do them sometimes and do them other times, let me tell you, read that information at the front before you do that, because there are definite purposes to every component that's in this, as probably are with most programs, but this particular, or Memoria Press in general, I believe, really is intentional about every single assignment that they assign, and they tell you why. If you look in the front, they will tell you what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, and why they believe that this particular method is most successful in achieving that goal. So don't skip over the front part, or this spelling program may not work very well for you. Don't skip the front stuff. Okay, let's talk about how they run a lesson. So one lesson is one lesson is considered 1 week of content. It's a 5-day program, five assignments per week, or actually the 5th day is the actual test. But they have a sample for you in the front that tells you what you do, and you can see day 1 is very heavy, you guys. Day 1, they schedule a ton. Day 2 is about half as heavy as day 1, and then day 3 and 4 and 5, they get a lot lighter as the week goes on. But so you might want to look over that a little bit. I know my gears are turning on that, and I'm thinking how I'm gonna level this out a little bit and spread this out, because it just seems like day 1 is so heavy. But they do give you that in the front of the book. Now let's talk about some things that I noticed that stood out to me right away. There's a ton of writing the list in this book. They not only have you write it here, but then they also suggest in the instructor's comments here to have your child write out the list in a workbook, or in a notebook, separate notebook. So this is a picture of the student workbook. This is actually the teacher guide that I have here. This is the picture of the book that your student has. They recommend a second, plain notebook, or they actually do, I think, produce a notebook that just has lines on it that they can do their practice words in. But they actually advocate that in addition to doing this, that your child will then write the list again. So there's a ton of writing the list, which is how I learned to spell, writing our words, I think like 5 times a day or something like that. That's how my spelling program was. I don't really know if that was successful for me. I'm not a bad speller, but I'm not a super strong speller either. I'm understanding a lot more now, going through and teaching my child in the phonetic approach. I'm learning a lot more about spelling rules that I just don't know that I ever learned. But I don't particularly prefer just the writing the word over and over and over again. So that's something, you know, as I read the front of the book and read the why of that, I really am trying to decide for myself if I believe that that's the best option for my child. So for my son, it's not. So we're not using this for my son, this particular approach. But I'm trying to decide that now for my daughter, if this is the approach for her. And I think it may be. Day 2, more writing of the list completely here, and then you write it again here. They do advocate the colorful word approach, where your child's able to quickly see the vowel in the word, which a lot of times does create the spelling pattern. Lots of hands-on activities and games. Those are found in the little gray boxes here. So they do have a good variety of activities to do, but the actual written activities are pretty much the same from week to week. By the time they get to day 3, they're using the words in context, which is key. That's a difference that I find between at least one of the other programs. They don't actually use the words in context in one of the other programs that I'm going to show you. Here they do. They allow the child to discern meaning of the word from use in a paragraph, and then they actually have to take that knowledge and come down here and put the words in a sentence. So they do work a lot with word meaning and context and usage, which I think is helpful. I mean, if you're just memorizing how to spell the word, I don't really know that that's helping you become a better writer, which is the goal of spelling, right? To communicate your thoughts to another person. So you want to be a good communicator, you need to be a good speller. They do give you the sentences to dictate here, so you don't have to come up with your own sentences. I personally like that. That was also something that was missing from another program I'm going to show you today. So there are definitely some differences that I wanted to show you right off the bat in this program that you won't find in some of the others. And some you will, but some you won't. And then you head on to the next list after the 5th day. So one thing I noticed by way of, you know, talking about comparing and contrasting, there are 10 words in this list. And that pretty much, I'm pretty sure that goes through all the way to, yeah, all the way to the end. 10 words per list. They don't bring in any review weeks, any review words that I've noticed. I've looked through this entire book, or almost the entire book, to see if this method was going to be appropriate for my daughter. I typically sit down and read through a whole course at a time. I just love researching homeschool material, and that to me is considered time well spent. So I looked through and didn't see where they brought in words from previous lists to review them. They didn't have review weeks where they just took 6 weeks of words and just took that 7th week to just review them. Another program I have here to show you does that. But there's no really built-in review here. They really do focus on memory, mastery, and then moving on. So that may be something to consider if you have a child that kind of needs that review. I think that was all I wanted to tell you basically about this one. Again, just highlighting some things for comparing and contrasting. This does come with, like I said, teacher guide, student book. There is an additional optional supplemental book if you need more practice with your words. Excuse me. And then your student will also need a separate notebook to write their words. So 3 to 4 components to do this spelling program. All right, moving on to the next one, BJU Press Spelling. Now we are using this course, so we are going to start off in lesson 10 because we've used the other 9 lessons. So I'm going to open this up here and show you a week's worth of lessons with this and highlight some of the similarities and differences with the last program. So right off the bat, you're going to see a much longer list. Okay, there are 20 words per week. 16 words that follow the phonics rule. So in this program, they do highlight the phonics rule, same as Memoria Press. 16 words that fit this rule. Then you've got 2 words that are review. So words that came from previous lists. Then you have 2 words down here that they call challenge words. Words that maybe have a, they don't really follow a spelling rule, or they're a rule breaker, as we call them in our house, or, excuse me, they just present as one of the most commonly misspelled words. You know, like there's not really any rhyme or reason as to these particular words. They don't really tell us why they're chosen. It's just they appear in the challenge section and they don't go along with the pattern that we're studying. So 20 words, that's a lot. They do offer several different review options. There are review activities that in addition to what's provided here in the workbook, so there's plenty of opportunity to review. They do bring in those 2 words from review from previous lists, so that's how they handle review. It's not just learn the words, master them, and move on. They do bring them back a little bit, but just 2 words at a time. So if that's something to consider, again, depending on your learner, you may want to create your own review list. They actually did that in the previous 2 years that we were with BJU Press. I have not noticed that we've done that this year. We used to, if we missed a word, or I say we, if my son missed a word, he had to write it down on this paper where we would create a review list, basically. If we missed a word, we had to create it, we had to write it down, and those would be words that we would review in our off week, because we had several weeks. There's only 32 weeks of spelling in here, and so there were 4 weeks where you could just create your own list and review those words. They have not really talked about that this year. We use DLO, the distance learning online, and I haven't seen that come up in any of my teacher materials or the videos, so they must not take that approach once you get to this level, but that is an option that you can do as well, because there are only 32 weeks. You can take 1 week every 8 or 9 weeks. I think 8 weeks, yeah, 1 week every 8 weeks, and that, the 9th week, the 18th week, you can do the math. I don't know when it would fall. Yeah, I think you do 8 weeks of lessons, and then there was the option for a review week, and then 8 more weeks of lessons and an option for a review week. That's what it was the last 2 years. Haven't seen that here, but you could still do it because they still only provide 32 weeks of lessons. Okay, hopefully I didn't just confuse all of you. One thing I really like here is it's full color. That really helps my little visual learner. They do the word sorting, but they actually separate the sections so that you're actually sorting the words. It's just in a line, it's just in one column in the Memoria Press book, and you may not think that's significant. I can't tell you how much of a visual learner I have. He's actually separating the words on the page, and he's creating, like, in his mind, he's actually told me this, he's like actually creating in his mind patterns, like, okay, these words have this pattern, these words have this pattern, and so just even moving the word sorts along the page like that and having sections for them has helped him. So that's just, again, something that's a little bit of a nuance. You may not think it makes a big deal, but when you've experienced it with your learner, it becomes significant to you. The next day, day 2, is a word meaning activity. So again, using words in context, working with word usage, and allowing your child to guess the meaning from the context of the sentence. So I really love that. The final program I'm going to show you does not have that. The first and second one here do. This is something that is unique to BJU Press, at least among these 3 options of spelling, is a proofreading activity. Now, there's varying schools of thought on whether or not you should have your child deal with misspelled words until they've become a strong speller. And I understand that makes sense to me, but I have seen such tremendous benefit from my son doing the proofreading activities. He is able to check his own work better, and he's able to then remember when he sees it wrong. He knows it's wrong, and then he's just able to pull from his mind, okay, so if it's not spelled that way, let me try this way, and that looks right to him. And so it really has helped him. I don't know if I'm verbalizing the proper reason why it's helping him, but it does help him. So this may not be something you want to implement if you subscribe to the no misspelled words until they've mastered spelling approach, but that is in here, so just keep that in mind if that's a preference that you have. Something that I love is the dictionary skills day. This is usually day 4 in the program, and this is not in either one of the other 2 that I'm comparing today. This is an opportunity for your child to add suffixes to the word, to look at the different word forms that you can find the spelling word in, and to learn about alphabetizing, to learn about different uses for the word. I love Dictionary Day. It's my son's favorite day in spelling, and it's really kind of a value-added application, because if you think about the reason we're trying to build good spellers, it's so they can be good writers, good communicators. And I think involving the Dictionary Skills Day here really adds value toward that end. And that's it. There's 4 days of activities, and then you take a test. There's no assignment, nothing written, nothing else to do besides take the test on day 5 here. So that I think kind of highlights some of the differences between the program I showed you and the one I'm about to. But again, with any of these, please leave your questions down below. With the BJU, I will say there is a teacher guide, the student book here, and then the option to have the video lessons. We have opted for the video lessons, so we don't have the teacher guide here. We just have the student workbook, and they do have additional exercises that we can print off and do if we need even more spelling practice. So if you're looking for a super simple approach without a lot of pieces, parts, you may be interested in the third option I'm going to show you here, because both the first 2 that I've showed you do have, multiple books and pieces, parts to teach the program. All right, the third thing I'm going to show you here would be a more Charlotte Mason style to teaching spelling. It's not purist in its Charlotte Mason method, because it doesn't actually have your child take the spelling words from a reading passage. The words are provided in lists, but it does subscribe to studying methods for learning spelling that relate to the Charlotte Mason method. So I'm going to, it's a really big, it's a thick book, and it just banged me in the head. It is Little Hearts for His Glory, or excuse me, Beyond Little Hearts from His Glory from Heart of Dakota. This is geared for ages 6 to 8, so it would be more closely in line with this particular level of spelling, but BJU Press starts in 1st grade as well. I just didn't have the 1st grade book to show you. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Heart of Dakota, it's an all-in-one program. I've done many reviews of it on the channel. You can go back and look at those, but I've never really showed you how the spelling is done and how it compares to other approaches. It is a very different approach to spelling, and it focuses mainly on visualization and memory that way, committing it to memory from sight. There is writing, not nearly as much writing as the Memoria Press. That would be the highest level of writing of these 3 that I showed you. BJU kind of goes in the middle, and then Heart of Dakota would rank with the least amount of writing to accomplish a spelling lesson each day. And really, for the week, it has the least amount of weekly spelling writing. But it does focus very heavily on visualizing. So there's a lot of having your child study and look at the words, flip it over, see if they've mastered it. So let's take a look at how Heart of Dakota handles spelling. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this, the traditional spelling is a 5-day a week. The BJU Press is a 5-day per week. The Heart of Dakota is 4 days per week. Now, you could shorten it down to 4 days and just give your child the test at the end of the 4th day. With the other programs, I would not recommend that with Memoria Press. I could see you doing that with the BJU, but I would not recommend shortening Memoria Press down from 5 days to 4. They just have too much writing in there already. I wouldn't try and cram any of that in. I would leave that at 5 days. I have done, in the past, I have done the BJU program in 4 days. I just have decided to do it 5 days now, but I have done that in 4 days. Heart of Dakota is actually scheduled for 4 days of spelling, so it's already done for you. If you're a 4-day-a-week homeschooler, that's already done for you here. So I'm going to show you, I'll show you this first in case you're not familiar with Heart of Dakota. It's actually a 2-page spread is 1 day's worth of schoolwork. It tells you what to read, what to say. It gives you some questions to ask your child, like in your history reading and things. It gives you an art assignment, a music selection to listen to. And then in this box right here, this box right here is where you'll find your spelling instructions in the language arts box. And 4 days a week, it will be spelling instructions. And then the 5th day will be grammar activities. So just 1 day of grammar and 4 days of spelling, and that's the language arts for Heart of Dakota. And they also have some copy work for handwriting as well. So for spelling, the way that they handle it is they give you the option to choose from 2 different lists. Now, the appendix of a Heart of Dakota guide is kind of widely known to be gold. It's widely protected to be special material, and we protect it as Heart of Dakota mamas. We try not to show what's back there. It's just kind of widely known as a proprietary thing that adds extra value to the program. And so I want to respect that company in that way and not show you back there in the appendix, because it's just kind of known that that's where the good stuff is. And we want to respect the company and all the time that they put into creating that section. And so I'm not just going to put it out here and show you everything that's back there. But back there in the appendix, you have 2 spelling lists per week. And one is at one level and one's at a slightly higher level. And so you just pick which list you want your child to work from. There are 10 words on that list, and you have your child work with them for a week. As I said before, there is some built-in review with Heart of Dakota. Every 6 weeks, you stop and review. So this is a whole week of review versus just reviewing 2 words each week in BJU and not reviewing at all in Memoria Press. So if you have a child who really needs that review, this might be something for you to consider. They have a full week of review of the previous 6 weeks lists. So that's something that differs from these other programs. Something else that differs is the approach to teaching spelling. They have you write the words on cards. You could have your child do it, or you could do it. Write your words on index cards and then just have your child study them. That's day 1. Just have your child look at the card, flip it over, and see if he knows it. Look at the card, flip it over, see if he knows it. And that's it for day 1. And that's really the method that they kind of stick with. They use those cards for different activities throughout the week, but really there's not nearly as much writing as the other 2 programs. And they really focus more on the visual part of learning spelling than the written or even the hearing part like Phonetic Zoo does. So if you're not familiar with Phonetic Zoo, that's IEW's spelling. I'm not comparing it here in a formal sense, but there is a very good video out there, I will try and link it below, that talks about hearing a word spell and those brain connections and how that develops a good speller versus the writing of the spelling words. So that's a really interesting video and might play into a little bit which one of these spelling programs might work for you. But Heart of Dakota really focuses on that visual part, seeing the word and visualizing the word. And so on days 2 and 3, you do some work with marker boards and matching words, and again, visualizing the words. You will do some dictation, and you will ask your child to use the word in a sentence, but there isn't nearly as formal or cohesive as an approach to word usage and word meaning as the other 2 programs that I showed you. So there's no ability to see the words used in context like in a passage like Memoria Press does. There's not the word meaning matching or filling in sentences like both Memoria Press and BJU does. There isn't that here. It's using a word in a sentence. So again, hearing it a little bit, but not hearing it spelled. It's just a little bit different of an approach, you guys. I can't really put into words why this didn't work for us, why we ended up moving on to BJU Press, but it just seemed so kind of out there, like it wasn't concrete enough for my child to grasp. They just wanted him to memorize it visually, and that just wasn't working for him. So we did not stick with this long. It did not work for us to do spelling in this way, but it is very minimalistic in the supplies that you need, just some index cards, a marker board, or or a notebook. It's very repetitive. They do the same exact 4 activities week after week after week. There's not variety in activities, so if you have a child that thrives on that routine, that might be something to consider about this program. It comes with everything else, so you don't have a separate spelling notebook and spelling teacher guide and all of this. It's included within your other lesson plans for kind of that all-in-one approach if that's something that you're looking for. So I'm not trying to say that since it didn't work for us and it doesn't have some of the things that I've highlighted that it's not a good option. I hope I've done a good job at promoting some of its benefits and virtues, but it just wasn't a fit for us. That doesn't mean it won't be a fit for you. So those are the main differences I noticed between some of the between Heart of Dakota and some of the other options that I looked at. One other thing I'll highlight is that I do believe that this is actually first or second grade level for most people. Most people use this at one of those ages of their, one of those age levels. And I do believe that the spelling words for list 1, if you choose the easier list, would be way too easy for a second grader. I believe that if you're going to use this for first grade, you could go either way, first, or you could go list 1 or list 2. But I think that coming to this book with a second grader, you may not find the words challenging enough. You might find them to be a little too simplistic, even if you use the harder of the 2 lists. But definitely with a first grader, I think you're going to have options to choose. But if you're coming to this book as a second grader, or with a second grader, I think you might find it a little too simple for them. So those are my comparisons, the differences I noted. Cost-wise, this is going to cost you the most if you buy the teacher guide and the student book, and certainly if you get the distance learning videos. This is the most expensive because this is included in the guide, that contains history and math and language arts and everything. It's all in one. It would be the middle of the pack, but when you consider what spelling is costing you, as a percentage in this book, it's really not that much. But this would be the second most because it comes in the whole big thing. And then this is the least expensive option because it's a standalone course. It's not wrapped in with everything else. The teacher guide and the student book, I think, are pretty comparable. I think they pretty much cost the same thing. It's really amazing to me that the teacher's manual costs double what this costs. So I still don't understand why their teacher's books cost so much, but they do. They just cost a lot. And this is about the upper 20s, low 30s, something like that. And their teacher manuals are like 60 or 70 bucks, you guys. I don't know why they cost so much, but they do. And so you need to consider that too. That's an important comparison because we're all on a budget homeschooling, right? We have a parent staying home and not working or not able to work full time. Maybe you're doing some side work at home or some part-time work, but we got to consider the budget too, don't we? So those are some final comparisons in the way of numbers. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have for you. This video is a lot longer than my new 10-minute rule, but there was no way to get around this, you guys. I was talking about 3 curriculums in one video. So if I do 10 minutes per curriculum, I'm still under my 10 minutes because that would be 30, right? If I did 10 minutes per curriculum, that would be under my limit. So we'll go with that. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here, and I will look down in the comments to see if you have any questions about anything. Please feel free to leave those. I love hearing from you all. I will answer those as best as I can, and I will see you in the next video.